Two video shots side by side. One is from the iPhone 13 standard wide 26mm camera, and then the other is from this camera, the Canon EOS R6, a professional grade mirrorless camera. So take a guess as to which you think is which, shot A or shot B. I'll give you a little bit of a second here, and you would be right if you said shot A on the left, the iPhone 13, and B on the right, the R6. So I know I'm properly late to the party with coverage of the iPhone 13, but I figured better late than never. I also really want to cover the iPhone 14 when it comes out in detail. I might even look into giving one away, so let me know with a comment down below the like button on this video if you would like to see that. If you don't know me, my name is Tom. I'm a full-time photographer and videographer. I also love smartphone photography, hence why I make comparisons just like this one. Alrighty, kicking on, we'll do another video shot here, shot A on the left, and then shot B on the right. We will let this play out. I've actually just got back from a short work trip to Italy, so I just wanted to shoot a bunch of stuff here as it's like so beautiful. But shot A at this time is the R6, and shot B is the iPhone 13. So again, like most smartphones, the most significant differences between the two shots here is sharpness. If we zoom into 200%, things do start to look a bit shaky on the iPhone 13 shot, whereas the Canon still actually holds up nicely. The iPhone still, like all smartphones, does have a bit of over sharpening. I do think these phones continually just like overcompensate the sharpness to deal with the sensor size. Let's throw in some stills now. This one is a bit of a dynamic range challenge here. I purposely designed this shot to contain both a ton of highlights and also a lot of shadows here in the trees. Shot A out of camera and shot B out of camera. And yeah, this one is the iPhone, and then this one is the R6. So obviously the iPhone does like an absolutely amazing job with this shot, and this really is the kind of best example of the advantages of the Canon EOS R6. So comparing these at face value, you'd say the iPhone is just better, like it does do a better job in terms of retaining that shadow detail. But once we apply a full edit, you can see the amount of data within the file of the Canon. We can actually get a look much more similar to the iPhone. The iPhone is just doing it kind of automatically for you, so you just have a lot more flexibility with the R6. This is another really tough one for the cameras here. This one is shooting directly into the sun with some shadows here. So we got shot A on the left here and shot B on the right here. This one is actually surprisingly hard, but you would actually be correct if you said the left was the iPhone and the right was the R6. Actually, for this one, the iPhone technique using Smart HDR was like really impressive, retained actually, in my opinion, a bit more data than the Canon even after an edit here. I cover a lot of smartphones here on the channel, and having played around with a lot of the current generation phones, like the Samsung S22 Ultra, the Google Pixel 6, which still remains my daily driver, I do have to admit that the iPhone 13 is consistently the most natural looking camera that I've ever used on a phone. Photos with high contrast don't come out looking kind of like way over processed. That was one of my biggest complaints with my Google Pixel 6. So I'm regularly asked how I'm able to pick up phones like this for videos just like this one. And the truth is, I wouldn't actually be able to do it without brands supporting the channel. So I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Zyro. A website is literally essential for creators of all sizes, whether you're just starting out or whether you entirely work for yourself full time. I myself have my own freelancing website, but I'm also in the process of building a YouTube-centric, creator-focused website, specifically for brands to learn more about me and how to partner with me, and I'm using a platform called Zyro to build it. It's a website building platform that lets you focus on content and creation instead of the technical know-how behind making a site. My favorite feature is that you can get a site pretty much up and ready, instantly ready to go using their AI templating tool. Simply select a business yours is most similar to from the drop-down. Zyro will create a site around this content for you, and then you could just change the photos and writing to fit your brand. I literally think you could have a high-quality website up and running within a couple of hours using this tool. The whole thing is drag and drop, customizable, extremely fast and easy to use. Most importantly, it is affordable, and they also have 24/7 support, which obviously for anyone that's done it is insanely important when building a website. You can use my own custom link in the top bar of the description to get Zyro's limited time discount, a custom domain for 1 year, and 3 months free with any year plan. Thanks again to Zyro for sponsoring this video and genuinely making videos like this one possible. So guys, I'm sampling the front-facing camera now on the iPhone 13 Plus, and I will switch in a second to the 0.5 wide rear-facing camera, so you guys can have a sort of comparison for what this looks like. That's that switch made. So one of the things that I really want to sort of make a big deal about on the iPhone is just how easy it makes content production. So I can whack this camera out, I can hit record. I don't need to worry pretty much about sound, about lighting. Everything is going to look and feel pretty good. Another thing is actually the stabilization. Like, look how stable this shot is, even though I'm just like walking down the street holding a phone. If I switch now to the Canon, so now we're on the Canon, and I have left this actually, I would never shoot video like this, but it's in auto, like all auto on the Canon, just because obviously the iPhone shoots in auto, so this one does as well, so let's keep it fair, and that should be able to deal with things like the exposure a little bit better. But you can probably see that the stabilization is probably much more wobbly than the iPhone, because normally you'd want some sort of stabilization system on the EOS R6, and the other thing is that the sound probably doesn't sound great because the iPhone camera is just better for this type of audio. Basically, everything is pretty much just easier on the iPhone 13 than it is on the Canon R6. Cinematic video was obviously a massive launch on the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 Pro. If you don't know what this is, this kind of replicates the shallow depth of field effect that larger, more professional cameras are capable of by artificially blurring the background of your video. Anyone who's watched the channel for a while knows that I'm not a big fan of faking camera characteristics like this, and cinematic video is kind of no exception. I do think it performs kind of significantly worse than the real thing. There's always going to be elements that the camera doesn't know what to put in or out of focus. Here you can see that often anything like a little more challenging for the phone to detect what should be in or out of focus, like these plants here, tends to look really actually pretty bad. But any bigger, more recognizable objects, it actually does do an okay job with. What I will say though is if you don't have access to a larger camera system, if you don't have a more expensive camera, it's absolutely awesome that you have the ability to create cinematic looking video and get a look that historically just hasn't ever been possible using a smartphone. Just don't expect it to be perfect. And I think what's really cool is I'm genuinely starting to use smartphone footage on actual real life projects for clients. I pretty much always integrate this in amongst other footage or photos from my larger cameras, but phones are getting so good that they can genuinely provide really good supporting footage on proper paid projects. Another thing that gets talked about is that phones don't handle motion quite as well as other more professional cameras. So we've got a couple of moving shots here. We have shot A on the left and shot B here. And yeah, you'd be right if you said the iPhone is the one on the right and the Canon on the left. I do actually think the iPhone does a better job than most phones nowadays at capturing motion, more like still life, but obviously the Canon with shutter speed controls is going to be the winner here. So I've done a few of these comparisons here on the channel now, and something which regularly people bring up when I make these videos is that I'm not sort of expanding the full capabilities of the professional camera by comparing it sort of like for like, and that definitely is true to a certain extent. If we take a shot like this on a 105mm zoom lens on the R6, there's basically no way at all that the iPhone can even come close to this, especially the iPhone 13 that doesn't have a telephoto lens. That is kind of the power of interchangeable lenses. Smartphone manufacturers kind of have added to this by just like sticking additional lenses on the back of phones. Sadly, the look just isn't really replicatable by smaller sensor sizes, and this really is the main reason why phones still haven't replaced proper cameras for full-time photographers. But like, who knows, maybe they will in 10 years time.